For the people who come and see these videos and come across my live streams, or whatever and wherever you may find yourself in this moment, and what is the self, but moving on, this is about stopping. This is about stopping thinking. So, unless you want to know about stopping thoughts or stopping thinking, then this has nothing to do with you. And if we, getting back to the question, what is the self? If we want to ask that kind of question about anything, not just something profound and mysterious like the nature of self or the nature of the universe, but if we want to ask what is this about anything, we have to put down our biases and our complicated thoughts and our habit energies and all the nonsense that's in our minds, so that we can look closely at what this is, and we can even begin to pose the question, if we can stop thoughts. Stop thoughts. Number one, stop thinking. And this is what the war is about. This is what the war of freedom is about. This is what the war concerned with the truth is about. To stop thinking. Until we can stop thinking, how can we stop only seeing from our personal side at that moment? Because our personal side also is changing all the time. Sometimes you feel good, sometimes you feel bad, sometimes you feel nice, sometimes you feel angry, according to the person, place, situation, etc. So until you can stop thinking, we can't really talk about questioning or looking deeply. And then when we do stop thinking, when we do stop some kind of intellectual narrative and explanation about our direct experience, well, what the heck is that? And the first person to raise their hand with an answer is usually the stupidest person in the room. Okay? Not always. If you're really lucky, and if you join a Buddhist community or you go to a meditation retreat or something, it's possible that the first person to raise their hand will be a enlightened person. But even then, you don't just take things because they appear. If the Buddha appears in your mind and says, go and do this, go and do that, is that the real Buddha, or is that a demon appearing as the Buddha? Right? This thought in your mind says, this is the right thing to do, this is the right perception, this is the right view, this is the right idea about this person or about this place or about this situation. Well, is that clarity appearing in your mind, giving you a direction forward, or is that the king of demons, the evil spirits coming to meet you? And some of us, blessed or cursed, whatever you want to call it, some of us know a little bit more. We have more experience with those evil spirits. or positive spirits. This is another core tool, weapon, teaching in this war for freedom that we are partaking in, that we are a part of right now, okay, is that there are many spirits. There are many evil spirits. There are many good spirits. There are wisdom spirits, okay? And these spirits and thoughts and entities and beings are outside of your comprehension, outside of your thinking, outside of the realms that you're familiar with. We use stopping to finish complicated thoughts. We use the stopping of thinking to finish, to resolve, and to support the resolution of complicated thoughts. Getting practical is another matter, because if we can't stop thinking, if we can't stop thinking, do not think anymore now, at this moment, okay, then how can we question our life and being practical? How can we question if I'm doing what I want to do, if I'm making use of my resources the way that I want to make use of them, and even what opportunities are available or out there, right? Communities, situations, people, places, ideas, avenues, directions to go down, okay? If you can't stop the non-stop diarrhea of complicated thinking, then how can you ask any of these questions? You cannot, because you are completely bound by and crucified by your constant non-stop thinking based on preferences, based on desires, based on fears that don't even originate from you as a separate self-entity, but rather are a kind of accumulation of experiences and perspectives and views and thoughts that come from outside, that come from human beings, but that also come from spirits. Evil spirits, good spirits, wisdom spirits, ignorance spirits. No thinking is no spirits. So we need to begin to open fully, to open like a lotus flower, to open widely, to open completely, beyond and through what we have been familiar with up to this point. You're not going to get rid of all your experiences. You're not going to get rid of all your money and possessions and relationships. That's not what it's about. But it's going through them to open, to widen out, to bloom like a lotus flower of nothing. And like I said at the beginning, this is about not thinking. This is about getting nothing. So if you're not interested in not getting nothing, be gone. Forgiven. Let's try some of this cappuccino. Stop thinking. in the poker of wisdom, when you can perceive that someone is talking about or expressing that they're thinking about things, you know they have a low card. They don't have a good hand. Immediately, you know that. So, as a layperson or as a wanderer, as someone who's trying to piece things together and has a limited experience for whatever reason, the moment that you can see that, tell, oh, that person is a thinking about thoughts, right? Place your bets high, and don't focus on that person and what they're saying and what they're talking about. It's mostly nonsense. And when we're in a situation to approach a teacher, our role, in the role that I may play as a teacher or as a folder of attachments and bindings, that's my role, to know how to unpack that as much as I'm able to, according to the situation. Do my best, right? But for the people who are kind of hanging around and looking at things in our life, when we're just kind of hanging around and looking at things, and someone comes up to us and it's clear that they're thinking about a lot of thoughts. They have a big idea in their mind. They have a big thought thing in their mind, okay? It's nothing. It's not important. It's not worth your attention. It's not worth your involvement. And we have to know how to embody that in our daily lives, to recognize when someone is approaching us with a big, heavy ball of non-practical, complicated thoughts, and what we offer them, because we do practice generosity in the midst of that, but what we offer them is nothing. We offer them non-thought. And you can call that forgiveness. You can also call that a kind of irrelevance. You give them irrelevance. And give yourself and your thoughts irrelevance as well. Be willing to give not irreverence. We should never really give irreverence, because we should always carry a sense of reverence for any phenomena, because it is what it is, and it's kind of teaching that, it's expressing that. But when we get into complicated situations, complicated thoughts, complicated what we can call people, or complicated spirits, it can be very difficult to perceive the just as it isness of that. And then we have a real psychotic syndrome in the psychosphere of Western culture, where people are just vehemently confident about how correct they are, in their thinking and their view and in their perceptions and in their positions. And the reason for that is very base, right? It has nothing to do with depth of heart, mind, experience, relationships, study. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just a confidence or an arrogance stemming from ignorance that is not apparently clear because of our capacity in a capitalist or consumerist society to meet our desires and avoid our fears. And it's literally the confidence that is so pervasive in terms of people's, a lot of Western people's, how they carry themselves and how they view their thinking and their logic and their reasoning as correct is just because they eat cheeseburgers. Is just because they have enough money to buy cigarettes. Is just because they drive a car and have a possession. That they experience pleasure, that they can buy a pleasurable experience, and through that can seemingly avoid unpleasantness. And that's not a reliable way to start a garden. And it's certainly not a reliable way to talk about working together, building community, or unpacking some of the personal issues that we may or may not be going through in our lives. And yes, if you have a question, feel free. And thank you for the donation, Cat8 or Cat B on TikTok. We are able to help others primarily through compassion, a deep wish for that suffering to end that stems from a deep awareness. So what is a deep awareness? It's a continuous looking. It's a continuous noticing. It's a continuous reflecting upon what is already. And thank you for your donation, Mikey. This moment is already containing, within this moment is contained the entirety of the known and unknown universe. The entirety of everything is contained within this. And this here is an all-inclusive, not anything in particular. Vividly, directly, already. And so the more that we can not just confuse ourselves or indulge ourselves or think about things, but be in relationship with what is already, that's not based in thoughts, in the same way that a cappuccino isn't based in thoughts. There may be thoughts or spirits surrounding that cappuccino, but it doesn't matter how closely you look. As far as we know scientifically or reasonably, right? Doesn't matter how close you look into this cappuccino at a molecular level, you won't find any thoughts in it. So thoughts are just like a tool or an aspect of the weather, but they are not the weather itself. In the same way that a hammer is an aspect of building a house or a shed or a small structure, but it is not itself that structure. So that thoughts are an aspect of reality, but that thoughts are not reality separate from everything else. And in that way, the thoughts are just a fizzle or a sparkle. And because of the proliferation of thoughts and the relationship with thoughts to our greed, our anger, our wrong view of a separate self entity, we need to be very serious about stopping thoughts. I'm the thought stopper. I am the stopper of thoughts. So what is that I? What is the I that stops thoughts? Well, why would it need to be an I? Things or thoughts or phenomena or heat or cool or feelings stop. They cease. They end. They resolve themselves through temporariness or dissolution or impermanence. But even as they appear, even as thoughts or states of mind or states of feelings appear, depression, anxiety, fear, trauma, a worry, a big bad thought, it is already very clear that that thought, that narrative, that idea, that structure of ideas, that lattice of sounds that we contain into then thoughts, okay, a paradigm of concepts, is already clearly not separate from all other concepts, which give it solidity. So if it is not separate from all other concepts, all other ideas, all other aspects of every other phenomena and thing, whether it's conceptual or thought-based or not, you can't separate it. We can see that the objectification of it as something separate that we then need to identify with and carry on our back as our burden is at most arbitrary. Anybody following along? I don't know if what I'm saying is clear or not. I don't know if what I'm saying is clear or not. How could I know? How can you know if what I'm saying is true or not? How can you know if what I'm saying is helpful or not? Why does there need to be a you that knows anyway? Why is that necessary? Why is that needed? Does a tree need a sense of separation? Do you need a sense of separation? Proof is more like poof, more like gas in the wind, more like a silent but deadly meandering thought. It's nonsense. Proof. Proof goes poof in the light of impermanence. You see? And impermanence is pervading everywhere. The temporariness of any phenomena, mental or material, is pervading everywhere. The expression, the appearance of the permanence of that thing is its impermanence. In as such that your awareness fundamentally changes what is being aware of the moment you are aware of it. So what it was before you were aware of it is no longer what it is now that you are aware of it. the moment you are aware of it, you are impermanence. You are the vehicle or the means of impermanence being recognized. Go backwards to non-thought. Go backwards to no thinking. And if your heart starts beating quickly, if you start to feel a strong, well, that means that you need healing. That means maybe you need a bath, nice hot bath. Maybe you need to go to South Korea. They've got nude bathhouses there, separated by gender. Okay, maybe you need to light a candle. Maybe you need to lay down or go for a walk. To heal and relax and settle, so that we can go backwards into non-thought as a starting point. Where we go from there, I also, I want to plant some fruit trees eventually. So, but I know that non-thinking in the way of no thought is very useful for planting fruit trees. And you may agree with that or not, I don't know. Act with forgiveness and mindfulness, because compassion is actually a manifestation of wisdom. It's just like being nice or being kind or trying to help. There's, I just can feel it. I can in my mind someone, banging on my door, just ruining my life and bothering me and annoying me. I'm trying, stalking me. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. Sir, this is a Walmart, right? So I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help. You need to stop that mostly. Right? I'm trying to fix this planet. Okay, sir, this is a Walmart. So what that means is that we need to go back into mindfulness, return to mindfulness, and abide in non-conceptual presence, so as to look deeply into the moment by moment impermanence of whatever phenomena arise without getting bound up and clinging to that phenomena, regardless of how profound or how, gross. Feel free to ask any questions. And I see some questions here. One question, hello Denise. Um, Jerry Seinfeld says, where are you? I'm in California right now. We're conducting a 7-day meditation retreat with the Vietnamese Buddhist community here in California. And, one of the difficult things about teaching through this vehicle, through live streaming like this, is that, what you need to do mostly is sacrifice and surrender and put your body and mind to work doing good deeds. Volunteering, serving, cleaning, taking care. To clear out the dust from your eyes so that meditation comes naturally, and that it's a way of meditation that is not building up something or building up to something, but is actually a non-restriction, a state of non-restriction, a state of openness to what is already, like this. And then from that, um, practicing to the extent that you can the path. And what is the path? Well, fundamentally, it's not a thing. It's nothing, we could say. So what are you going to do with nothing? And that's the thing you need to work with. That's what is sustainable. That's what is reliable. That's what we can come back to and take refuge in. That is not going to make any tricks for us. No one wants to be tricked, but no one is already no thing. So just be no thing. And then there are no tricks up my sleeves, because I don't have sleeves, because I'm a Buddhist monk. So I wear a robe without sleeves. You have to stop thinking about things. During this live stream, okay, this is an edict. During this live stream, no one is allowed to think. No thinking is allowed. But feel free to ask any questions you have. Or share your experience, share your understanding. Expose me. Expose me for the uh, uh, you know, your experience, your understanding about this. Whatever you do and wherever you are and whoever you're with, just don't think about anything. That is the practice I recommend for you to try. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. Develop a capacity to generate happiness, generate contentment, generate kindness, generate wisdom and compassion. But we have to penetrate through the conscious mind into the unconscious, or into the subtle mind or the internal mind, so that our will has power beyond reaction to conscious experience. Okay? Unless we are willing to cut the shit that we are so full of, and we can work with that, we can start working with that by stopping thoughts, okay, and being concerned with the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Trust me, I don't want to hear it. But until we can start to do that, it's very unrealistic for us to whine so much, because we're not really trying anything outside of cheeseburgers and YouTube videos and TikTok videos and whatever nonsense we happen to come across. So, to the degree that you can stop thinking, be as arrogant as you want. To the degree that you are aware that you cannot stop thinking, be that humble. And be that open to learning and listening and giving and collaborating and sharing and caring. The issue is that a lot of people want to, quote unquote, work together or talk about things, but they're not really very experienced in doing anything other than consumption. So the conversations tend to fall into one of two categories. On one side, it's just argument, subtle or gross. And on the other side, it's just the perpetuation of consumption, right? Like, hey, let's talk about something to consume together. And people don't like humble pie. People like to keep their fingers crossed for winning the lottery. And you're not going to win the lottery, statistically. And if you do, maybe it's because of me, so we can split it. Otherwise, a lot of what working together means is based in service, right? It's based in volunteering. It's based in supporting and getting involved with that which is already established, and finding out a way to go and serve and support in that, especially if it's concerned with mindfulness and detachment, or wisdom and compassion. Wisdom is kind of like mindfulness. Detachment is kind of like compassion. So we have a comment here through the TikTok. They say they would love to serve. Well, who doesn't want to hear that, right? No, what can you do? What can we do? Well, you can start by making sure that what you already have is in order. Because a lot of service relates to giving, okay? And we can only give what we have already. So you can't give something that you don't already have. And this is one of the issues in, everybody in their, you know, friends at their meditation group all want to be mindfulness teachers or spiritual teachers. And then they approach spirituality or they approach meditation from this perspective of um, trying to get something to then give it away, but actually they're just trying to get something so that they can get something else. So we can start, if we're concerned with service, all right, by making sure that what we have is in order. So if you have a house that's full of a bunch of things, make sure those things are in order. And it's going to be very difficult for those things to be in order if you have a lot of things that you don't need, right? And let's say, for example, that, like many Americans, you have tons of resources, or a lot of Western people, you have tons of resources that aren't really being used. They're just sitting there and wasting away, you know? So you have to start by cleaning up and cleaning out and taking care and putting into order what you already have. And so, for example, if you have a nice bathtub, make sure it's clean. If you have an extra room, make sure it's clean and prepared and taken care of for that homeless person on the street who needs a place to sleep, who needs a bath. Right? And so we start with our material possessions. We start with our material things, making sure that all those resources are in good order. Our vehicles, our monies, that we're not just spending a bunch of money on subscriptions that we don't use, and kind of all these outflows of our resources that are completely unnecessary and don't actually relate to any deeper sense of meaning in our own hearts, right? So we make sure all of that's collected, managed, in order, and also simple and serene, simple and stable. Now from that place, what you have is ready to be used for all, or for anyone who happens to be in need, right? Needing support, needing care, needing consideration. And when we start with the material things that we have being ready and in order, could even be our vehicles or whatever items and things we have, then you can kind of sit in the orderliness of your material resources, and you can begin to simplify and stabilize the mind, not by doing some kind of esoteric practice, but actually considering how you can make use of what is already there for others. And this gives the mind a very stable platform for non-thinking, and rather for bringing up a sense of gratitude and bringing up a will and an intention to help and to serve and to bring benefit to others. So that's a very good starting point. That's a very powerful starting point. We have all these spiritually minded people that, they have a big house or they have a nice place, and it's a mess and it's full of, garbage, and it's full of things that aren't being made use of. And it's because of that, there's all these spirits going into the cracks and crevices of our wealth and of our resources. And then when something comes along or someone comes along that may need help, and we say, oh, maybe I have something here, we're kind of attacked by all of these spirits that have been dwelling and abiding in the messiness or the lack of consideration, the lack of mindfulness in our material environment. So you want to refresh and restart and clean out and take care of that environment so that you will be ready to give. And you'll also be ready to allow that environment to be the way that it already is. Because when your environment is not taken care of, managed, cleaned out to a certain extent, your mind, your mental energy is always going into that a need for it to be taken care of. When actually, if you just take care of it, you can let it be. And then you have a lot more freedom to go out and help and serve and give and do whatever may be right to do to bring benefit to others, rather than just having this constant energetic drain on trying to manage what is already there. Because it's not enough to ask what we can do. Oh, what can I do, right? Bante, what can I do to help? Or the homeless person, or whatever, whatever miserable old soul you may come across, right? What can I do? What can I do? You have to be ready to do what you can do. And if you're flustered and overburdened by not doing what you can do or could do already, you're not going to be available to help and to serve and to give. So you have to get your things in order so that you're ready to give up, to give away, to give out. And start with the material things. Start with your money, start with your possessions, start with the responsibilities that go along with your physical form. Make sure it's all taken care of, calmed down, settled down, so that you will be ready to give up everything, to let go of everything, to abandon, to detach from everything at this moment, without having to do something with your body or do something with your mind. Okay? Everybody likes money. Not everybody, but 99% of people. Everybody likes to get profit or to get something, right? But getting everything settled allows us to see the beauty in not being involved with anything. And in not being involved with anything, losing becomes accessible to us. The peacefulness of loss, the serenity of loss, the gratitude of loss becomes accessible to us, available to us. And a lot of life is losing. So for example, every dollar that you make, you're going to lose. Is that true or not true? Every +1 in your bank account is another dollar, another +1 that's going to be -1. For sure. So if you're just fixated on profit, the same if you clean with this idea of profit, you're not going to be able to sit in peacefulness or quiescence when the cleaning is done. Right? You're not going to be ready to pass away when this life is done. You're not going to be open to no thoughts when thoughts are done, which is actually very normal and very accessible to not think, to not be in a state of thinking. So what we're working with here is truly a fire sale of ignorance and attachment. Get it gone as soon as you can for the lowest price that you can. That which arises already ceases. So it's not a matter of your control to make that happen, but rather your willingness to allow what is already happening to be, together with everything else. And that's truly a joy. And when we talk about this this openness to spiritual practice and starting to get in contact with spiritual teachers, we're talking about a large diversity of very empowering and enriching and intense experiences. So rather than having to, fall into a kind of spiral of grasping and attachment about a certain practice or a certain experience or a certain teacher, etc., develop your relationship with this quiescence of phenomena just as they are already. And then from that place of stability, of simplicity, and from consent, move forward in the way that you like to move forward. Support in the way that you like to support. Right? Give and follow very carefully in the way that you like to. Not because this kind of addictive urge or this compulsive sense of I need to go there, I need to do this, I need to, this is the right thing to do, but actually from a quiescence of phenomena. And already knowing, even if it's just in a small sense, that quiescence of phenomena, that serenity of all that is already. That ultimately you can go and work at Walmart if you want to, and that would be fine. But making a choice to go for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, or following this teacher, or following that teacher, or being in this country, or being in that country, or teaching or not teaching, or listening or not listening, etc. In listening, listening only. In teaching, teaching only. In giving, giving only. In receiving, receiving only. In being, being only. In not being, not being only. Just the way that it is already. And from that, even if it's a very small recognition, okay, a small sense, a small feeling, from that you can make the choices about what you get involved with and what you want to do. And that is where real cooperation and communication can take place. And it's very safe if you can just find this small seed of recognition of the serenity of what is already. But don't let that limit you. Let that empower you and inspire you to continue helping others. And we should work together to help others in all kinds of different ways. I mean, that's one of the most meaningful and worthwhile things that we can do in our lives. But to do that, we have to recognize, even in a small sense, but then to deepen and prioritize that recognition in a bigger and bigger sense, so that our capacity to help and to serve and to give in all the ways that may be can bloom without grasping upon itself, which will limit it, which will limit its inclusiveness, which of course the natural way that things are already is completely inclusive. So we want to go in line with that rather than trying to manipulate or control that, so that things happen in a way that creates stress only for the explicit purpose of alleviating stress. And even that, really we don't want to create stress, and learning how to not do that. Okay, we have a question here. So the question is it necessary to be a monk and leave everything to have a better life? No. Why would that be necessary? It is available and accessible, but how you make use of that life as a carpenter, as a social media influencer, as a man or as a woman, or as a non binary agent, whatever, that is going to determine if you have a better life moving forward or if you have a worse life moving forward. But there's some interesting teachings here that we may want to consider, concerned with the five previous patriarchs of Chan before the great master Huineng. It's very famous. Let's see if we have it here. Right. A 10,000 story building. So where is the ground? Is the ground on floor 7 being a monk? Is the ground on the 10,000 story of the ultimate Buddha pervading everywhere, blessing everyone with limitless wisdom and compassion? No. A 10,000 story building is built from the ground up. This is the ground. But if you can't stop thinking, then you can't see the ground. You can't know the ground. You can't even entertain the notion of a ground because you can't stop thinking. And because you can't stop thinking, the arrogance is limitless. The arrogance is unbounded, right? It's like you can't stop eating cheeseburgers. Think about thoughts, constant thoughts, as being cheeseburgers. So yeah, eat your fill, enjoy yourself, relax. But if you can't stop eating cheeseburgers or Starburst candy, candies like that, what's going to happen to you? You're going to blow up like a balloon. You're going to get diabetes. So you have to stop. How deeply, how completely you stop, how free do you want to be is ultimately your decision. No one else can make that decision for you. Some people may try to make that decision for you or say that they can make that decision for you and try to sell you something, sell you some idea, sell you some belief system, sell you some established structure that exists. But I'm here to sell you nothing of mindfulness and detachment. So, you can't buy it anyway. So, how could I be selling it? See? It's very powerful teachings here. Okay, here. So you can check if what I'm saying is in line with this or not. Sutra. Seeing the scholars and common people of Guangzhou and Shaoquan and the four directions assembled on the mountain to hear the Dharma, the great master took his seat and spoke to the assembly, saying, "Come, each of you, good knowing advisors. This work must begin within your self-nature. At all times, in every thought, purify your own mind. Cultivate your own conduct and see your own Dharma body and the Buddha of your own mind. Take yourself across, discipline yourself. Only then will your coming here have not been in vain. You have come from afar to attend this gathering because we have karmic affinities in common. Now all of you kneel, and I will transmit to you the fivefold Dharma body refuge of the self-nature, and then the markless repentance and reform." This is very involved stuff, but instantaneous as well, but as involved as building a 10,000 story building. And that's something Tabarwa and our group would like to do. If you could make it 10,000 stories, that Seattle would definitely be interested in that. The assembly knelt, and the master said, "The first is the morality refuge, which is simply your own mind when free from error, evil, jealousy, greed, hatred, and hostility. The second is the concentration refuge, which is just your own mind, which does not become confused when seeing the marks of all good and evil conditions. The third is the wisdom refuge, which is simply your own mind when it is unobstructed and when it constantly uses wisdom to contemplate and illuminate the self-nature. When it does no evil, does good without becoming attached, and is respectful of superiors, considerate of inferiors, and sympathetic towards orphans and widows." Excuse me, I'm having a bit of a moment. Okay, common karmic affinities. This is not this is not your grandma's horseradish, and you can quote me on that. So, listen for a moment. And let's get a call of attendance. If you are here, make it known. If you are here, if you are here, reveal yourself, or reveal the presence. Yeah, Kara asked the question, so Kara is here. And Wise Girl is here. body and mind are here, surely, with the lotus flower of alreadiness. Nella is here. Phoenix is, these people are on TikTok. And if you are on TikTok, we have a YouTube channel. Very interesting, very exciting. Okay. Sir, the spider is here. Sir Spider 1. Wolfie is here. Pamon 96 is here. Okay, before we get into karmic affinities, because this is more just like Buddhist psychology rather than Dhamma. It's also Dhamma pointing, but it's more Buddhist psychology, which is also important. And Consuelo is here as well, and Sophia is here. Good. So this is the commentary on the sutra that we've read so far. Okay, please listen closely. Stop all thinking and listen closely. And if you can't stop thinking, well, you know, what's the problem? Commentary. Xiao Quan is the present-day Chu Qiang. Students and common people from north, east, south, and west went to Nanhua Temple on Paolin Mountain to hear the great master explain the Dharma. The master said, the work of sitting in Chan meditation, or true meditation, the mind ground Dharma door, must arise from within your self-nature. That which is already. Just in the same way that you would say, if I said, you don't have a self, you'd say, what are you talking about, mister? And you'd ask for a ticket, right? You'd say, what's the ticket for? Let me on my way. So listen, the master said, the work of sitting in Chan meditation, the work of sitting in true meditation, the mind ground Dharma door must arise from within your self-nature, or from within what is already. Every thought must be correct, not deviant. Proper thoughts purify the mind. Improper thoughts defile it. You personally must cultivate this Dharma door. No one else can do it for you. Your own Dharma body is simply your self-nature, and the Buddha is within your own mind. If you take yourself across by receiving and keeping moral precepts, you will not have wasted your life. Now, taking across here is from suffering to enlightenment, from a normal, ordinary being to a Buddha. And it says here, if you take yourself across by receiving and keeping moral precepts, you will not have wasted your life. So just prioritizing, just emphasizing, making your life about keeping moral precepts or practicing morality, being a good person, if you were to live that way, you would not have wasted your life. We meet here because conditions from former lives have ripened. All right, Kara, this is the answer to your question. We meet here because conditions from former lives have ripened. And what that also means, it's a deconstruction of your ego making choices and picking and choosing, and that, like, I'm here because I want to do this, and I was doing that in this life, and I made this decision, etc. And the same for you, and la-di-da-di-da, right? But rather that we are here because conditions from past lives, not this life, not this moment, but past moments that we cannot comprehend at all intellectually, that we can't grasp in any way, have ripened. Now, put your right knee on the ground, and I will transmit to you the fivefold Dharma body refuge and the markless repentance and reform. Pay attention. The morality refuge, the refuge of morality, is simply to have no thoughts of right and wrong, good and evil. In order to keep the precepts, you absolutely must not be jealous, neither should you be aggressive like a bandit. If the mind remains unperturbed in all states, good and bad, that is the concentration refuge. So a lot of people are construing meditation or correct meditation or right meditation, all right, to be a good experience, a good state, a positive state. But that's not what this says here, right? And actually, in Buddhist meditation, it's often taught that right concentration, or having the right experience in meditation, a very concentrated experience, is this kind of good experience, right? This positive good experience. Now, what it says here is that if the mind remains unperturbed in all states, any state, good or bad, good and bad, that is the concentration refuge. So that it's not about if the state of your mind currently is good or bad. It's about if you can remain unperturbed, undisturbed in the midst of what is already. Whether it's good or bad is irrelevant. That's the concentration refuge. Whether it's good or bad is irrelevant in itself. Do not obstruct yourself with feelings of inferiority, but use wisdom to destroy ignorance so that you may view the self-nature. Refrain from evil and practice good, but do not become attached to the idea of merit as the Emperor Wu of Liang did. If you do good, forget about it. Don't run up to the heaven of the 33 levels and shout, I gave $500, I gave $1,000, my merit is higher than the heavens. This is to be stupid like Emperor Wu. It is not wisdom. So to go into that a little bit, not too much, because I'm still working on this myself, or not self, it gets into nothingness, but there's a story of the founder of Zen, okay, the founder of Chan, Bodhidharma. And he went to China and he was hanging out and people said, this guy's got it. This guy's the guy. And the emperor heard about this and the emperor said, this guy's the guy. I haven't met him. I need this guy to be brought to me. So he sent out his messenger and the guy said, okay, he went to see the emperor. So now the highest Zen master in China is a guest and meeting the emperor of China. The emperor of China goes up to Bodhidharma and says, Bodhidharma, you got to understand something. I've been donating tons of money. I've been building tons of building temples, building structures. I've been giving permissions for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to become monks and nuns. I've been doing the work, all right? I understand you're the guy, but I've been doing the work. Tell me, Bodhidharma, how wonderful, how deep, how profound, how much merit or blessings have I gotten from all of these good deeds that I've done? And Bodhidharma said, nothing. You've gained nothing from all of these activities that you've done. Why did Bodhidharma say this? If we do good, we're supposed to feel good. If we help, we're supposed to get blessings. So why did Bodhidharma say, you've gotten nothing from this? Because seeking after worldly blessings is not true merit. True merit is returning to that which is already. So because the emperor was seeking worldly blessings and worldly affinities and special experiences through doing good deeds, he had accumulated no merit at all. And in this way, we can say that true giving is the giving of renunciation concerned with what is already. And we can see this kind of expressed in the commentary by going up to the 33rd heaven, to say, my merit is higher than the heavens. What's going on here? Where's my comeuppance after all that I've done? So this is to be stupid. It is not wisdom. And true merit in Buddhism is concerned with wisdom, not concerned with worldly affinities or worldly experiences. But even saying that, it's good to tell people to do good. Even saying that. And it's good if people do good, even saying that, right? Whatever kind of good it may be. Respect your father, mother, teacher, and elders, and never speak of their faults. Do not be like the boy who testified against his own father. The police asked the father if he had stolen a sheep. No, said the father. What do you mean, no? Cried his son. I saw you kill the sheep, eat it, and sell its wool. How can you deny that you stole it? This is wrong. If you know that your father is guilty, when the police come, you should run. Refuse to testify. This is called respecting your superiors. Be considerate to those beneath you. Don't be mean to little children and unsympathetic to widows. Mencius said, a child without a father is an orphan, and an old woman without a husband is a widow. Orphans and widows deserve pity and support. When there's poison in the mouth, it doesn't matter what you drink, you'll be poisoned by it. Okay? So, go rinse out your mouth. Continuing with the sutra of the fivefold Dharma body refuge of the self-nature, okay? The fourth is the liberation refuge. So what is the refuge of liberation in this fivefold Dharma body? Let's listen to it. The fourth is the liberation refuge, which is simply your own mind independent of conditions, not thinking of good or evil, and free and unobstructed. The fifth is the refuge of knowledge and views, which is simply your own mind when it is independent of good and evil conditions, and when it does not dwell in emptiness or cling to stillness. You should then study this in detail, listen a great deal, recognize your original mind, and penetrate the true principle of all the Buddhas. You should welcome and be in harmony with living creatures, and without the idea of self or other, arrive directly at Bodhi, the unchanging true nature. Commentary. Is this clear? The absence of self-seeking is liberation. The absence of self-seeking is liberation. If you are self-seeking, you cannot put everything down and so continuously scheme and plot. To be liberated, do not grasp at good or evil. If you say, I will sit here and not study anything, I am empty, your state is useless, like the emptiness inside a rubber ball. It is not the emptiness of the void. These people sit all day thinking of nothing and doing nothing. At mealtime they eat, and at bedtime they sleep and do not even dream. This is a pitiful waste of time. Now, in the past, I had more issues kind of understanding what this was talking about because, as an American and someone growing up in the whatever century this is, 21st century, and so all of the media and all of the content and how that influenced the kind of complicatedness and continuous stressfulness or engagement of thinking in the mind, right? I never quite got what this was talking about because it seemed very foreign to me. But just in the same way that we can have a proclivity towards a very complicated, scattered, kind of media-filled or content-filled mind, right? It's also possible to have a proclivity towards a mind that's kind of empty. And you can call it dull or bright or whatever, but it's a kind of natural emptiness, almost like a kind of complacency, right? And so the master here is talking about a phenomena or a situation in the past where at some monasteries and some temples there would be a lot of these complacent people that thought they had the enlightenment or thought that they understood the true nature because they just kind of sat around with empty minds and filled their bellies. Okay? Now, what are we talking about here? Not holding an idea of better or worse, so that we can arrive directly at Bodhi, the unchanging true nature. Not holding a mind of better or worse. Is this better? Is that better? You should study the sutras in detail and listen to sutra lectures. Those who dwell in emptiness and cling to stillness claim to study Buddhism. They do not listen to lectures or study the Dharma, but if you ask them about it, they say they know it all. You should welcome living creatures and be in harmony with them. In the Chinese, to be in harmony with is expressed by the phrase to unite the light. What does that mean? All lamps give off light, but have you ever known lamplight to fight with lamplight? Has a lamplight ever said, "You are brighter than I am. That is no good. I am going to put out your light," upon which it hits the other lamplight, or the other lamp says, "Your light is too small. Either make it bigger or move out." None of that goes on between lights. Do you understand? It applies to everyone in the world. You practice your way, and I will practice mine without hindering one another. You cannot decide that someone's reputation is too dazzling and try to ruin him so that your own name will shine. It is permissible for others to be jealous of me, but I am not jealous of anyone. The better you are, the better I like it. The more success you have, the happier I am. Not to be jealous is to unite the light. You might say, I am uniting the light with him, but he is not uniting the light with me. If you were truly uniting the light with him, you wouldn't know that he wasn't uniting the light with you. Do you understand? If you unite the light with him, how can you know that he is not uniting the light with you? He won't unite the light? That's no problem. Just continue to unite the light with him. We can say this is the light of unobstructed awareness, not bounded in thoughts of good and evil, right or wrong, better or worse, something over there or something over here. Well, I have to say, this has truly been a joy. We haven't had the good chance in quite a few months to come together and look at sutras and do sutra lecture like this. So a good source of sutras is, as always, your unborn mind. And if you have the will and the sincerity, you can send me an email and I'll send you some sutras. Send you the sutra that I'm reading now. Let's finish, and it ends with a poem. So we can really embrace this, very be happy about this, listening to sutra lecture and listening to sutras. I'm not the best person to lecture, but I'm the person that is not here, not now, which is just like this, quiescent already. Just continue to unite the light with him or her or whoever. Welcome, living creatures. If you like the great vehicle Buddhism, I will explain the great vehicle. If you like the small vehicle, I will explain the Four Noble Truths of suffering, dependent origination, stopping, and the way. If you like the Bodhisattva way, I will explain the 6 paramitas: giving, morality, patience, vigor, concentration, and wisdom, and the 10,000 conducts which lead to realization of the Bodhisattva way. If you like the dharmas of the Pratyeka Buddhas, these are silent Buddhas, so these are enlightened beings that don't teach. I will explain the 12 conditioned causes. Ignorance conditions activity. Activity conditions consciousness. Consciousness conditions name and form. Name and form conditions the 6 senses. The 6 senses condition contact. Contact conditions feeling. Feeling conditions love. Love here is kind of affiliation. Love conditions grasping. Grasping conditions becoming. Becoming conditions birth. Birth conditions old age and death. This is called uniting the light and welcoming living creatures, responding to the needs of the individual. One of my disciples looked in the dictionary and found that in Chinese, to welcome living creatures means to help other people. However, it is not just to help them, it is to induce them to leave suffering and obtain bliss. Lacking the idea of self or other, arrive directly at Bodhi, the unchanging true nature. Having helped one person, you cannot say, I have taken a bhikshu across. How great is my merit? If one thinks like that, he hasn't a dust mote of merit. So it's once again going back to the emperor and Bodhidharma. It's that sense of a self-view, and there's no merit in a self-view. There's no merit in a sense of separation. What did I get from this? Nothing. Once you have done something, listen to this. Once you have done something, it should be forgotten. Because if we don't do like that, all of these things that we do, whether they're good things or bad things, obscure and obfuscate the Bodhi mind, the unchanging true nature. And we're explicitly here, we're giving here, we're serving here, we're practicing here, we're listening here to arrive directly at the unchanging true nature. So, once you have done something, it should be forgotten. That's a practice and also a realization. And if you don't do that, you will exclude yourself ridiculously and unnecessarily from the contact with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, which is one of the most reliable ways and means to come back, to arrive directly at Bodhi, the unchanging true nature, because the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha are explicitly about guiding you on the importance of lacking the idea of self or other and arriving directly at Bodhi, the unchanging true nature. So once you have done something, it should be forgotten. If you lead people to Buddhahood, you should not be attached to the merit gained from it. Therefore, the Diamond Sutra says, I must take all beings across to nirvana, and yet not a single living being has been taken to nirvana. You recite the Diamond Sutra from morning to night, but do not understand its meaning in the least. Look at me, you say. There is still me, and me comes before everything else. What Diamond Sutra do you recite anyway? The Diamond Sutra speaks of having no mark of self, no mark of people, of others, of living beings, or a life, because all dharmas, all phenomena are empty appearances. Is there anything more wonderful? If you truly understand, you arrive directly at Bodhi. You arrive directly at the unchanging true nature. Is there anything more wonderful? This is called the refuge of proper knowledge and views. You have been liberated from knowledge, views, and attachments. This is Bodhi. No self, no other. Contemplate independence. No emptiness, no form. View the one, come thus. Without the mark of self, just that is the Bodhisattva Avalovikiteshvara. If you do not fall either into emptiness or existence, you can see the Buddha. May you and all beings in this Dharma assembly see the Buddha without view of self or other, without clinging to emptiness or form. May we all attain the way. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.